Hi, my name is Rich. I'm a student here in Orlando at the UCF College of Medicine, and just kind of addressing this argument that immunity to COVID-19 that you get from vaccines is not as good as the immunity you would get from just catching the virus. So from the beginning, this is such a loaded argument, full of issues. The word that immunity to COVID from infection is better than vaccination is full of misinformation, just in the way that it's phrased. The statement assumes that it's one or the other. It assumes that just previous infection can be good enough, right? And it assumes that there's not much room for improvement in your body's immune system after you recover from COVID. In reality, all of the research on this stuff seems to point towards the fact that people who got infected and then got the vaccine later are significantly more protected than people who just had one or the other. Now, to start with, immunity it's always on a scale, and it's composed of layers that depend on so many factors that vary day to day, like we talked about in another shorter video. So when we're talking about building immunity through infection or through vaccines, we're talking about adding a layer to your existing immunity. Immunity can always be boosted, whether it's through minor boosts like rest, healthy dieting, through exercise, or whether it's through major boosts, major improvements like getting vaccinated. On the flip side, it can always be made worse. Again, stuff like how sick you were, what strain of COVID you had, your genetics, the way that your immune system is oriented because of how you grew up, and just how stressed you are when you get exposed again. It can all mean you might not be protected against catching and spreading the virus again just a few months later. Now, the heart of the thing, if you really just want an answer to the question of which one is better, even though it's not an either or, I'll tell you it's hard to compare them directly. See, most studies on immunity developed from infection comes from what's called observational studies, while most studies on immunity from vaccines were randomized controlled trials. So it's like comparing apples and oranges almost. There's also just much more data on the long-term immune responses to COVID than to the vaccines at this point. So at the time that I'm making this video, based on all the predictions by people who are just expert specialists in the field, a short answer to the question is that when you average everyone who had COVID that they looked at, effectiveness of immunity acquired from infections goes down to about 50% between 1 and 2 years, taking into account all aspects of immunity. Where vaccine-acquired immunity appears that it'll be about 70% effective at 8 months out if you only consider the antibody part of immunity. Again, it's the best numbers that we have, and they're wildly different. But hopefully that helped.